Okay, thanks, Esther. I suppose we've gotten some of the stats here, and basically, Esther was asking was, knowing such stats, what are some of the things that we could do to prevent our students or your children from being addicted or something like that? Yeah. But first of all, before I start, I would really like to thank the students from SST. I think they did a great job. It's really good. I think it's really good to hear from the horse's mouth. I mean, these are your children, or children like that, and they're saying to moms and dads out there what their world is like now. So the first thing that I would like to talk about, I mean, this is my DD told me, why don't you use Pac-Man? It's kind of passe and archaic. then I said, maybe our parents here could identify Pac-Man. How many of you did Pac-Man when you were younger? See, DD? Yeah, so I'm glad you find this familiar. It's kind of colorful and nice too. But so I'm going to frame this part on prevention with the acronym SAFER. The first letter really talks about what the SST friends have talked about, to share our time, to spend time to get to know what your children are doing online, all right? So to be interested, basically. And of course, I think I kind of alluded to the safety tips. And I'm going to talk about safety tips using the acronym IRAS. It's time to pay taxes now, right? So IRAS, I stands for integrity, right? So I think we want to teach our children to do what's right, more than what's legal, yeah? Line up, yeah? So R is respect, really to respect everybody on cyberspace. And this means not posting lewd remarks or slanderous stuff. And A would be astuteness, to be astute to know what and who to know, or who to trust rather. All right, astuteness. And then S would be security. We need to protect our internet use and all. Okay, so remember for security, IRAS. Do you want me to go through that again? Yes. Maybe later I'll ask you. Okay, so A, like I said earlier on, is to be aware, is to be attentive to what your children are going through. And even play an active role. I'm not sure, if I were to ask the SST students, would you like your parents kind of play games with you? Yes? So I see like 4 nods and 3 nay. Are there some games which your parents play with you? Yeah? Like what? What's that? Okay. Okay, that's very good. Do you enjoy it? Yeah, okay. This leads to my next point about family activities and family bonding. So you can actually, as parents, show interest in your children's world. I was told there's no such thing as real world and virtual world anymore. Right? Everything's real to your kids, whether it's done virtually. We are talking about offline and online world. So the other thing I would like to talk about really is also to spend some time with your children outside of the home. Maybe go to the park. And I think they talk about something very interesting, that you need to do things that your children like, especially adolescents. You can't decide anymore, oh, let's go to Botanic Gardens, but there's going to be a heritage site, right? Maybe you could ask your teenage son or daughter, what would you like to do today? Maybe they want to go to the arcade. Or as long as they're going out to do something different, either watch a movie. And I think it's very important, parents, to also have family rituals. I actually remember my brother, when the children were small, on like a Friday night, they would spend time with their children. First Friday, dad and daughter, and mom and son. Second, dad and son, mom and daughter. And the third, the whole family together. And the fourth, the kids will be at my house. And then mom and dad will have the couple time. So some family rituals are important. And then sometimes, do you guys still go to visit your grandparents? Yeah, very good. I see several nods. So there's some family rituals like maybe every first Saturday of the month, we go together as a family to visit the grandparents. Okay, so it's also important to look at family activities of bonding outside the cyber world. Oops. Okay, E would be to educate children on being a responsible cyber citizen. There's a whole lot of resources that are in the market. Oh, actually, I forgot to talk about. Did you guys have this coaster? Yeah, if you would take it out, and I really like this, because it talks about what do you observe at like hawker centers or restaurants these days? Mom, Dad, John, and Mary, what are you all doing? Yeah, iPhone, iPad, and all. Yeah, so maybe when we talk about family rituals and rules, one of the things you could do is to say that when we're eating, having a meal together, maybe we could put our handphones aside. And guess who has to role model it? Mom and Dad. Yeah, so maybe we put that in your bag, and then you can have a conversation around the table. And I remember watching a Welcome to Taiwan. How many of you have been to Taiwan? Yeah, Taiwan has lots of these lovely al fresco cafes. And this chap, you know, he makes coffee, he roasts coffee from coffee beans. And in his cafe, he has a sign like that. No handphone, no laptops, because he wants you to savor his coffee. That's quite cool, right? So remember this. And also, there's a whole lot of resources from Touch. I just want to thank Touch for providing this. This is really good. I read it last night. And then, of course, the MBA. Please read them, and not just read them, and just do some of the things that are written there. Okay, so we have R here. To me, the most important letter in this acronym is really the R. Yeah? As long as we have the relationship with our children, you will be able to communicate openly. You want to ask them and discuss what's the boon and bane of internet use. What are your experiences like? What are some of the problems you face on the internet? So we need to have open communication with our children. And also, with open communication, it's more likely that we can set some rules. So the do's and don'ts. And also, maybe come up with a contract. They always talk about how many hours of internet time, and you can only have 1 hour perhaps after you've done the homework. Do you guys have that? No? What else do you go into? But anyway, I think they are kind of like teens and responsible teens, so they know how to moderate their own time. Like this gentleman said, you have so much time you don't have much time actually. You need a lot of time to study your quantum physics or AMAT. Yeah. Okay? So don't get too worried, but then it's good to have that structure. Maybe 1 hour after your homework, and then if you did well, probably have maybe 2 hours over the weekend, and you've got long holidays, right? And then if you didn't quite follow the agreement, then there's this thing called negative reinforcement, as in you take away that 1 hour. I know our director does that with her son. She shared with Esther, yeah? So there are some of the things that you can talk about and decide on certain, and agree on certain things. Okay, so safer for prevention. You know, I remember once I did a workshop where we had a whole lot of adolescents, teenagers there, and then over there we have a whole group of parents. So if you guys have any questions, whether you want to ask it now or later, so please do ask the panel, and also the students who are still here. Any quick question, safer, still something that you've done that has worked, regarding what I've talked about? Any one quick comment? Yes, please.
How do you teach children how to prioritize?
How to teach them how to prioritize? Okay, maybe I'll leave that to the principal here. Yeah, the principal will answer that. But in essence, in school we do teach social emotional competencies. So there are things like self-awareness, self-management, and responsible decision making, things like that. But I think Mabel, would you take it up later? Yeah. Okay. Any quick comment? One more is. Average acceptable hours. Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah, I really don't think we can prescribe like, not more than 10 hours or not more than 4 hours. You really need to know your child. You know, so some children can manage to work Pardon?
Just on that line, because I don't want to
Mm.
taking away, like, I mean, if
Okay.
parents doing it, and then,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of answer later, but to me, I think probably an hour. But I think you need to know your kids. Some kids learn faster and they can manage the homework. And then we are just talking about managing. If your value is having your child to live a balanced life, then you want to look at how you allocate time for other things as well. Okay, so it's not just about computers and studies as well. How about piano, tennis, or whatever?
My son study 1 hour. Can I let him play 1 hour?
Okay. I think I better leave the questions to the panel because we have two parents here. Yeah, it sounds study 1 hour and 1 hour. Okay. I don't think they're magical numbers, so I think we'll discuss that a little. If you could wait for a little while, we'll have the panel to answer some of these questions. So I'll pass the time back to Esther, and she'll be talking about what we're doing in school with regard to cyber wellness.
Thank you, Cecilia. Okay, so now we move on to the bit about what are we teaching in schools. So I'm here to share with you a little bit of what we're going to cover as topics in the curriculum and how you can reinforce the same messages at home so that together as a community we educate our child together. Okay, move this clicker. Okay, so this is what we have in schools. For primary schools, they have the form teacher guidance period. If you have visited some of our booths at the exhibition area, you'll be able to see some of these resources on display. So for the primary CCE curriculum, what is CCE? What is that? Okay, it stands for Character and Citizenship Education. So in the past, I remember when I was young, we did 好公民, okay? And it's the same thing, okay? But the new brand, okay? It's called Character and Citizenship Education. So form teacher guidance period sits in it, and children learn about values through all this, and also social emotional competencies, like what Dr. Song has mentioned. So there is components of cyber wellness. Likewise for the secondary curriculum. So we have a module that's dedicated to cyber wellness alone. And for the secondary module, next year, it will be full force in play. So let's move on. Okay, so in the past, we have resources such as this, the Smart Surfers, NetWise Cyber Teams. So these resources are available in schools and schools teach them. But we know that there is a changing landscape. Things are always evolving. In the past, we teach such issues, computer security, gaming, copyright. And now we see the new issues surface, such as cam whoring, cyber lynching. What is that? Cam whoring is when kids take pictures like naked photos, inappropriate pictures of themselves, and they post it online, sexting. There are new issues like cyber lynching. What is that? If you can recall the unfortunate incident of the two boys who were killed over the truck accident, so it actually was spiraled off from there, where a boy made certain comments, and then her friends felt that it was inappropriate and all jumped in to bash up the boy. So there is lynching, where you take justice into your own hands. You think the more opinionated individuals will actually share their opinions online, and hence there's some not so appropriate consequences that results from that. So we see that issues like that are changing. There's confessions page, etc. And in the future, we don't know what's going to come up. Okay, so with this changing landscape in mind, how do we develop our curriculum? We decide to anchor on what is enduring and never changing, which is actually about values. So no matter how the technology changes, no matter how our context changes, values of respect, responsibility, okay, all these are enduring. Social emotional competencies like self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. How do I take perspectives? How am I cognizant of the audience that we have when I post something? Responsible decision-making, relationship-making. So all these are enduring. Let me move on to this. Okay, and one approach you want to drive across is to achieve balance. And I think the students have talked about balance. Dr. Song has talked about balance. And yes, so this approach is something that we want to drive home to our kids. It's not about not using. It's about, it's not about excessive using only, because we also don't want them to be not using technology, because it's so prevalent in our lives today. And they cannot do without it because they need to use it for learning, and it's a very useful tool. And even adults, we use it for work. We use Google Maps. Okay, we Google and we wiki a lot of things. So technology is very helpful for us. But the key thing is about balance. So we want to teach balance. So another example, like connections and relationships. Do we have a balance in our online and offline relationships? And we want to teach kids about not being excessively connected, such that we're dependent on the number of likes we get on our Facebook. Okay, we're always checking how many likes we have, how many comments we have on our posts. It's excessive. Okay, what we want to look towards to establish is about balance. Another example, appropriate expressions. How are we disclosing our personal information and expressing ourselves online? So the key thing, the key understanding is about balance, it's about moderation. Okay, let me share some features, the key features of the curriculum. 2 principles, 4 themes. Very easy to remember, 2, 4. So what are the 2 principles? These are the 2 foundational cyber wellness principles that has been in place in schools since 2007. And you've seen it loop around in the slide before you came in. It's about respect for self and others, safe and responsible use. So these are the foundational principles that we want our students, our children to bear in mind whenever they're in the cyberspace. 4 themes. We have 4 themes that's coming out. And what are some of the topics within these 4 themes? The first one, identity. Okay, we are talking about online self-expression. What is this? The lessons will cover ideas like, oh, how do you express yourself in your online profile pictures? How do you use avatars to express yourself? And are they appropriate? So for example, we mentioned just now, are we using photos that are too revealing? That's a little over, tip the balance. And why do we want to use such photographs? So we link it to self-esteem and self-identity. And we see that there is a link. And if we strengthen the self-identity, so we're not excessively looking for affirmation online. And we're secure in who we are. We don't need excessive attention. So in the way they express themselves, they can have more moderation. So we're talking about self-identity. And in the lessons, we also want to strengthen their self-identity. So what can we do at home knowing this? Something very useful would be you can also strengthen their identity at home. Words of affirmation about what they're doing, helping them to be secure. My parents love me. My siblings love me. And I'm very secure in who I am. I don't need excessive affirmation from my friends out there, from only online affirmation, because they don't have time for me. So a balance of that to strengthen who they are, and will help them to moderate how to express themselves in the cyberspace. So these are some examples. Another example about cyber use, balance use, like you mentioned before. So from primary schools, we tell them to talk about time management, yes, the do's and don'ts. And at the secondary level and upper sec, okay, we want to tell them to be advocates, meaning they are ambassadors, just like our student ambassadors there. They are so good and sensible, right? So we want them to look out for their friends. So we talk about tips.